Oops. Let me quiet this thing down. Okay. Topic Tuesday. What is our...
Why you need a buyer's agent in the villages.
Why you need a buyer's agent in the villages. I think this is a very important topic, or else I wouldn't have wanted to do a little video on it. So let's go ahead and get started, okay? All right, so why do you need a buyer's agent in the villages? Well, so here's the thing. If you're buying a home with any village's agent who works in properties of the villages or in the village's sales office, those agents are all representative of the developer. Every single one of them. All 350 plus agents that are there. So if they represent the developer because they work for the developer, that means they're all sellers agents because they are there to sell homes for the villages. Now, a lot of people will come through there and they'll go out with a village's agent because they have to go out with a village's agent if they want to look at the village's inventory that the villages has, because the villages has the VLS, everybody else has the MLS. The VLS is Villages Listing Service or System. Really haven't figured that one out. Multiple list, and then the MLS is the Multiple Listing System. So you guys, I guess, are familiar now with the two different listing systems. The MLS is for realtors, and the village's agents are not realtors, so they don't abide by the realtor's ethics. I want to take you to let's go here real quick. Then we'll come back to what is a transaction broker. Board of Realtors Ethics. Okay. So we want the national, really. Code of Ethics. This is what, well, let me go ahead and let me get myself up here with you so you and I can be together on this. Hey, Gary, thanks for joining us today. All right, there we go. All right, so this is the National Association of Realtors, the Code of Ethics. This is what all realtors and anybody who belongs to the MLS has to belong to the Board of Realtors, and thus they have to abide by the NAR, is National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics. And this will tell you a little bit about the Code of Ethics and what we as realtors have to abide by. So there's a whole, let's see, here we go. Code of Ethics, 2025. So there's a preamble before they get into the Code of Ethics. Then we go to duties to clients and customers. When representing a buyer, seller, tenant, landlord, or other client as an agent, realtors pledge themselves to protect and promote the interests of their client. This obligation to the client is primary. One thing that really kind of stands out to me is they've always told us that we have to refer to anybody we work with as a customer, not a client. Here I see they've kind of amended this, so maybe now we can use client, the word client. So these are all the duties that are imposed on us. Now, let me see if I can do a search. Here we go. Transaction broker. Let's see if that's in here. Because that's what this segment is really about. Okay. Transaction broker. Is it thinking? Okay, let's see here. Do I go through here? I thought for sure. Here we are. Article 4. This is talking about if we as a realtor have an ownership in a property, we have to reveal that, okay? Let me just see here. But that's not what I'm looking for. Anyways, I don't want to just sit there and have nothing but, so right here it says the obligations of the Code of Ethics in respect to real estate disciplines other than appraisal shall be interpreted and applied in accordance with the standards of competence and practice of the transaction. Okay, so I specifically am looking for transaction broker. I thought it was in the Code of Ethics. I guess maybe it's not. So anyways, let me go back to here, and we'll go here. And all right, so let's get back to the topic at hand. Hey, Create Sunshine, Renee, Racer Girl, how you doing? So let's start on where I was wanting to. Oh. Boy, probably couldn't hear me. So, back to villages agents. Villages agents they work for the seller because they work for the developer. Now, yes, they'll take you out and show you their listings. And everybody used to say, well, I know I used to say that they are not a buyer's broker. They're not a single agent, right? Single agency. So let me go to this topic here real quick. So a blank form. I just want to try to get to what. First of all, buyer's broker agreement, we kind of went over, I think, the last time we were together. And let me go up here. Where are we? All right, exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, consent to transition to a transaction broker. This is important. Why? Because it explains what a single agent does and it explains what a transaction does. So, and then over here, transaction broker. What is a transaction broker? And what is a transaction broker? Let's read this. A transaction broker provides a limited form of representation to a buyer, a seller, or both in a real estate transaction, but does not represent either in a fiduciary capacity. So that's interesting. So whenever anybody lists a home with the Villages goes into that listing as a single agent and representing the seller. But they do not in any form represent the buyer, ever. That's where I'm going down this road. Because what happens when a Villages agent shows a buyer a property and that buyer wants to make an offer on that property, they both, the listing agent and the buyer's agent, have to convert from a single agent. Now there is no single agency for the buyer, but the seller and the seller's agent has to convert from a single agent for that seller representing that seller into a transaction broker. They no longer represent the seller. That agent who shows somebody the property never was a single agent or in a single agency capacity working exclusively for the buyer. They've always been in the capacity of a seller's agent, and now everybody's a transaction broker. Once a buyer makes an offer on a property with the Villages, both the selling agent and the buyer's agent are considered a transaction broker. And again, a transaction broker provides a limited form of representation to a buyer, a seller, or both in a real estate transaction, but does not represent either in a fiduciary capacity, meaning looking out for that person's best interest, only representing that person. So a transaction broker is the default agency relationship status for Florida real estate agents in most transactions. If you are working with a buyer's agent or listing agent in Florida, chances are that your agent is acting in the capacity of a transaction broker. So we don't do that here. Okay, we enter in as a single agent and then we transition So here's a single agent notice. So we start out as a single agent, dealing honestly and fairly, giving you complete loyalty, confidentiality, obedience, we do what you want us to do, full disclosure, accounting for all funds, skill, care, and diligence in the transaction, presenting all offers and counter offers in a timely manner. Ooh, sorry about this. There we go. Presenting all offers and counter offers in a timely manner unless a party has previously directed the licensee otherwise in writing. Disclosing all known facts that materially affect the value of the residential property and not readily observable. This is all what a single agent is responsible for. Now, how does one transaction and why does one transition to a transaction broker? Florida law allows real estate licensees who represent a buyer or seller as a single agent to change from a single agent relationship to a transaction broker relationship in order for the licensee to assist both parties in a real estate transaction by providing a limited form of representation to both the buyer and the seller. This change in relationship cannot occur without your prior written consent. So I can't remember honestly if the village's contract has in there this transaction, consent to transition to a transaction broker. It would have to be. So as a transaction broker now, dealing honestly and fairly, that's up there. Accounting for all funds, you don't see loyalty. Loyalty is gone when you enter into a transaction broker. In what capacity do I, as a real estate broker, transition to a transaction broker? Only when I have the listing, and the listing is in my office, I am Realty, and I have the buyer as well. If I'm working for you in as a buyer's broker, as a single agent, I give you all of this. If we happen to see a listing that I have listed or somebody in my office has listed, that's when we have to transition into a transaction broker, only if I'm working with the buyer and that listing that the buyer wants to buy is listed by I Am Realty. That's the only time. Other than that, any other home, I stay as your single agent in operating under all of this. Here you see loyalty is gone. Now, you see there's 1 through 9. Here there's 1 through 7. Okay? So, using skill, care, and diligence in the transaction. That's down here, skill, care, and diligence in the transaction. So these are all in above. Disclosing all known facts and materially affect the value of the residential property not readily observable. That is right here in number 9 as well. Limited confidentiality. So here, confidentiality is now not total confidentiality, but limited confidentiality. All right. And then any additional duties that are entered into by this in a separate agreement. So really there's only 6 of the 9. 3 of these go away. And so that's why you need a single agent working for you as your buyer's broker in a single agent capacity, because then you get all this. And that's why it's important when you go to the villages and you use one of their agents, you only get this, okay? It goes on to give you the definition of limited representation. Means that a buyer or seller is not responsible for the acts of the licensee. All right, so additionally, parties are giving up their rights to the undivided loyalty. So this is important. This is why I wanted to do this segment on Topic Tuesday, because now you have you have limited representation, right? Right up here as a transaction broker. Ira Miller and its associates, those are the agents inside my office, provide you a limited form of representation. So just beware that 100% of the time, 100% of the time, when you buy a home from a village's agent with a village's agent, you are dealing in a transaction broker status. And then all of this, limited form of representation. You're not really getting full and complete representation. They might tell you, but, you know, this is what they operate under. All right, so there you go. And that's why I wanted to bring this. So, you always really want to have somebody that's acting as your single agent. That's even brought to you in a contract. So this is for the buyer's broker agreement. These are also, let me just bring this up to you. Now, it is law, it is Florida real estate law that we have to transition to it as a transaction broker if you are buying one of our listings, okay? So, but we do abide by the ethics. That's why I brought the code of ethics up. So 100% of the time, we're still abiding by these ethics that you see here, whereas a village's sales agent is not a realtor and does not have to abide by these ethical practices, right? But we do here in the MLS. So we still have a code of ethics that we have to abide by to look out for your best interest. Again, that's why I go back and say, you need representation. You need single agency representation when buying a home through the villages. And that's why I've decided to offer myself as a single agent who does not have to transition to a transaction broker when a buyer is buying a home from the villages. So at 1/2 of 1% is my fee to represent you if you're looking for representation when you're buying a home from the villages. Now, it goes a lot further than just than my knowledge on real estate, because hopefully you know by now my knowledge on construction. You know by now I've had a home inspector license that I've put inactive because I don't do home inspections, but I've gotten my home inspector license. I have 125 hours of home inspector training, which I didn't need. I just went ahead and did it on my own to do that, as well as a residential contractor's license. So I'm looking out for your best interest when buying a home, any home, whether it's in the MLS or whether it's in the VLS. I just want you to know I am looking out for your best interest based on my 25 years of experience as a real estate agent here in the villages. I guess 15 of those years maybe as a broker. I can't really remember how long I've been a real estate broker. But you do want a broker, not just a sales agent representing you, okay? So that's why I wanted to go down this road about why it's so important to have representation, because I can tell you right now, I work with a lot of people, right? And with those people that I work with, they tell me, a lot of them tell me how much they don't like working with a village's sales agent. They don't feel like that sales agent has their best interest at heart. And I'd have to agree with them because, you know, those sales agents are trained as high pressure sales agents to sell you a home. And they're really trained to sell you a new home. So, you know, I go to a lot of homes, and I was at a home yesterday. And they were telling me, yeah, a friend of ours down the street has, the village is listed with the villages. And the villages listed his home for $675. And the guy says, well, look, I only want to really list my home for $585. And they go, oh, no, 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 we can list your home. We really think that we can get, more for your home. We think you should list it for $675. Well, the guy was on the market for 8 months trying to get his home sold. And I said, look, I told these folks, I said, think about it. What are the advantages for the villages, And I don't really want to get myself in trouble with the villages, but just think common sense. The villages pretty much is in the market first and foremost to sell a new home, right? So just be careful. You need representation so you don't get with an agent who's a high-pressure salesman or salesperson and get you to buy something that you really maybe might not want to buy, not in the market to buy. But just understand, you need somebody like me who's acting in your best interest, who is operating in the form of a single agent capacity. I'll show you when we're doing residential for contract or for sale or purchase. Let's see, that's not really what I want. So right here, though, when I'm listing a home, right, I have to list a home with this exclusive right of sale listing agreement, allowing me to transaction as a listing agent from a single agent. I'll start out as a single agent, right? And here's all of what a single agent does. And right here, where we have to transition and how that works, okay? So that's what we're dealing with. So I'm just not going to go on and on and on too much about why you really need me as a single agent, because I feel like I already, now again, if you hire me, I'm not operating in the capacity of a transaction broker between you and a village's listing, because those are totally separate from anything my office has or out there in the MLS. So don't get confused. Like I said, the only time I have to transition to a transaction broker is when I'm working with a buyer and they want to purchase one of my listings in my office, or one of my, which is listed by either me or one of my agents that are in my office here. So once again, only 0.5%. If it's a $400,000 home, 0.5% is $2,000. That would be my fee for representing you as your single agent, making sure that you're not taken advantage of and the home is in the condition that it needs to be in. Once again, because all villages agents work for the developer, and as an agent working for the developer, they are all they all work for the seller. Whether the seller is the villages selling new homes, or whether the seller is the person who listed their home with the villages, I don't have to abide by any of that transition into a transaction broker when working with you as your single agent right up here. There is, and let me just go to here. So there is a form single agency, I believe, oh, here we are. Brokerage relationship, single agent. So if you and I were to work together, we would enter into this brokerage relationship as a single agent notice. And then again, all the duties that I owe to you as a single agent would be right here, okay, as a single agent. So that's how we would take care of that, all right? And that's pretty much all I really have to go into. It's going to be short and sweet today. Just what is a transaction broker? Again, I've kind of looked things up for you. You can look them up on your own. So if you don't sign anything that references single agent or no brokerage relationship, then they're presumed agency. So remember, if you're out there working with a village's agent, they will not sign or give you a single agent notice like I just showed you here, okay? So you might want to ask while you're there as well, just to, confirm everything that I've told you. And you want them working as your single agent like I will, and I will sign all of this. They won't do that. So, and that's why. So just buyer beware. What's that? Caveat emptor, buyer beware. I'll tell you, there's a lot of homes out there listed that I think because people have bought the wrong home, right? So you just have to be aware that you're in good hands. You have a confidant in me. It's just like hiring, I'm not an attorney. I'm not saying I'm an attorney, but it's kind of like hiring somebody who's going to represent you on your behalf and be able to give you unbiased information, and just know that that I will be representing you as a single agent working in your best interest. All right, kind of beat that one to death, I think. So that's it for today, you guys. I want to thank you for kind of watching. Like I said, this is short and sweet, but I thought it was really important that I kind of discussed with you how things work over at the villages, and you really need representation. So if you want to buy a home from the villages, you want to be represented. This is the bottom line. You want to be represented by a single agent who has no agenda other than to go in and help you. Make sure you don't get ripped off, that you pay the best price, that you're buying a quality home, and not just somebody who's just trying to sell you one of their listings. So, the last thing I will mention is that you have to really understand the mindset, too, of villages agents. I mean, and it goes both ways, to the MLS and the VLS, We in the MLS know at any given time, if we're working in the villages, at any given time, somebody could buy a VLS home, right? And we might have worked with you and shown you multiple homes, and you happen to find one that you love in the villages, and that's fine, It is what it is. It's just a necessary evil. It is the way it is. But also on the flip end, a villages agent knows that they could equally lose a buyer to the MLS. So they're going to do everything they can to get you to buy a home. And trust me, I worked for the villages for 9 years. Totally well-trained to get you to buy one of their homes. and more than likely one of their new homes. So just be careful. Thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it, Gary. And Renee and Create Sunshine. I really appreciate you guys showing up with me today. So we'll see you next Monday night or next Tuesday. What is next Tuesday's topic?
That would be. Oh, no, that's April. The market slowdown.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the market next Tuesday. Interesting things are happening with the interest rates going down a little bit. So we'll really kind of pay a lot of attention to what the market is doing, has been doing, where it's going, all that good stuff. So hopefully we'll see you next week on Topic Tuesday, but even before then, Monday night for an open forum discussion. Please bring your questions, and I'll be happy to answer anything you may have. All right, so thank you very much.